there we have that. So we could break that difference out in that format. Now, what's the difference going to be? The difference we need to break out, it's going to put that here, equals the 200,000 minus the amount in the capital account, which is this 124,2. That's what we need in order, that's the debit we're going to need in order for this journal entry to be in balance. So, and we're going to break it out at the 38, and again, that's a rounded number. So notice if I go to the Home tab, Numbers group, and add decimals, it's actually 37.5. We can do that here, add decimals. And also note that if we add up the total equals the sum of these two, it should add up to 1 or Home tab percent, 100%. So we're going to break that out at 37.5 to M and 62.5 to L. So in D21, we can do that with a formula, equals the 75.8 times the 37.5%, means that we're going to have to debit M's capital account, reducing it by 28,425 in F21 equals the 75.8 times the 62.5, and that gives us the 47,375. If we add those two up, of course, that adds up to the 75.8. So the ending capital account, if we want to think about what should the ending capital account be after this, this is where they started, 151.2, and we could see that over here, 151.2, and then it's going to be reduced by the 28,425 because this is the amount that was paid out in excess over the amount that's in the capital account for B. So we're going to do the same thing here. This equals this minus the 47,375, enter, and therefore that's what the capital account should be at the end. I could sum that up for the total capital account, and there it is. So we're going to create the journal entry now, and once we do the journal entry, then we would expect that this number is going to go down to 0, and this number should reflect the 122,775, and this number should be the 217,225, and the two should add up to a total capital of 340. Let's see if that happens. So we're going to need a debit to the other two partners being M here. So I'm going to copy M's capital account. I'm going to paste that in I-19, right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to reduce this capital account with a debit. So this is a credit here represented by the brackets. We need to make it go down. We're going to do the opposite thing to it, which is a debit. We're going to debit it by the 28,425, which should bring it down to the 122,775. Therefore, we're going to have the 28,425 here. We're going to do the same thing for L. So here's L. L has a credit balance. We need to make it go down. We're going to do the opposite thing to it, which is a debit. Copy that, right click, copy. Going to put our cursor in I-20, right click, and paste it 1, 2, 3. We're going to debit that account by the 47,375. 47,375. After we post it, L's capital account should then be the 217,225. Let's see if we are in balance. If we add up our debits now, they add up to 200,000 equals our credits. If I add up all of them, it adds up to 0, meaning the debits minus the credits are equal because they add up to 0. So let's post this out and see if it does what we think it should do. What do we think it should do? It should bring M's capital account here, take B off the books, and bring L's capital account here for a total capital account of 340. So also want to point out that the way I built that journal entry was best practices for me, the way that I can think through it. Notice that we could say that we should have these two debits on top and have it in a different order. In my opinion, in a more complex journal entry, any format that you can look back on and say and figure out what happened more easily is more important than having the debits on top. But just keep that in mind if you're putting this into some other kind of format that you could have people that are, kind of picky and they want the debits on top. Okay, so let's post this out. We're going to be over here in O20. So we are in O20. I'm going to select equals, and we're going to point to that 124.2. That should bring this down to 0, put us out of balance. Like so. We can see our accounting equation over here if we want to. And then we're going to go to the cash. Cash is going to be the second account. Cash is up here. And we're going to post it to O17 and see what happens. Equals the 200,000 what's going to happen? Well, cash is going to go down. That's a debit that we're doing the opposite thing to it. Goes down to 350. Then we're going to post the M capital count. So here's M capital count. Here's where we're going to post it in 019 equals, and let's point to that 28,425. That's going to bring M's capital count down to 122,775. Then we're going to post L's capital count here, and we're going to post that to 021 equals, and we're going to point to that 47,375. That's going to bring the capital count for L down to 217,225. The two capital counts now add up to 340. So that looks like it's doing what we expected to do here. We've got the 122,7, we've got the 217,225, and they add up to the 340. All right, so now we're going to take one more scenario that will be very similar. And we're going to say, well, what if we had the same information here, but now B sells the capital interest to the partnership for only $50,000. So now we're selling it for $50,000. Let's see what would happen if that was the case. So now we're going to do the same thing where B is selling to M and L. It's just the amount that has now differed. So let's think about our journal entry first and then come back to the worksheet. So first question, is cash affected? And yeah, cash is affected because the partnership is once again paying B to pay off and buy the capital interest in this case. So cash is going to go down. Cash is a debit balance. We're going to make it go down by doing the opposite thing to it, which in this case would be a credit. So I'm going to copy cash. I'm going to put that in the second account. So I'm in I-31, I-32, I-32. Right click, paste 1, 2, 3. The cash that is going to be paid out this time is only $50,000. So we're going to put a negative for the credit, $50,000. And when we hit enter, we'll put the brackets and whatnot around it. So that's the amount of cash being paid. We're paying for B's capital account. So now note that B's capital account is valued at more than the $50,000. So again, the question is, well, why? I mean, if the capital account represents the value of the company, and it's saying that the capital account here has 124.2, why is it that B would sell the capital account for only 50? And again, it's a negotiation between the partners and the partner. So the partnership and the partner. And it could be for various reasons. It could be that they think that the partnership is overvalued in some areas. It could be that B really needs to leave at some point and is willing to accept less money because of the circumstances. So whatever that negotiation is, that's between the partner and the partnership. For us, we need to take this down to 0. There's 124.2. B's now gone. So how do we make that go down to 0? We do the opposite thing to it. So we're going to debit it. That's a credit represented by the brackets. We're going to debit it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that in I-31. Right click, paste it to 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put it in there for 124.2. Now we're out of balance, of course. We've got the debits are higher than the credits by 74,200. We're going to need a credit of 74,200. What are we going to credit? The other two capital accounts here for M and L. M and L are going to actually increase their capital accounts by this amount because they paid out less than the capital account balance for B. Therefore, they're going to split the difference in accordance to their profit sharing. So once again, how are we going to figure out what their profit sharing is? Well, we had a difference of 325. So one way we can do that is we can say, well, let's make a new agreement where we're going to have the 3 out of divided by, instead of 10, now we got 3 and 5 or 8. So 3 over 8 and enter. So that's that 0.375. We could make that a percent. Home tab, numbers, percent. And we could increase the decimals if we want to see more precision here, like so. And then B is gone, of course. Then we're going to go to N. L, we're going to have the same thing. We could say, well, let's make it 5 out of 8. 5 out of 3 plus 5. So equals 5 over 8. And that'll be the new percent. We're going to put our cursor there, home tab, numbers, and percent. We can increase the decimals. That should add up to 1 or 100%. So let's see if that's the case. Equals the sum. I'm going to double click the sum. Highlighting the 37.5, the 62.5 adds up to 1, or of course, 100%. All right, now we're going to have to break out this difference. between the price that was paid and the amount in the capital account. So in this case, the capital account had 124,200 minus what was paid of 50. That's that difference. That's 74.2. That's the plug we need here, 74.2. And we're going to break it out by 37.5 to M and 62.5% to L. So let's do that with our formulas. This equals the 74.2 times the 37.5%. And that means that we're going to have 27,825 increasing the capital account here. So in this case, we started with 151.2 in the capital account plus the 27,825. We're going to increase M's capital account. So at the end of the day, M, this will go up from here to here. That's the idea. And then we'll do the same thing over here in L. We're going to say this equals the 74.2 times the 62.5 and enter. So then we're going to say this equals what the beginning capital account was plus what it goes up by here. And there we have it. And then we're going to sum that up for the total capital account. We'll sum the 179.25 and the 310.975 total capital account here. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen? M's capital account is going to go up to 179.25, B's going to 0, and L is going to go up to 310.975 for a total capital account balance of 490. That's the book value of the company, theoretically. All right, so let's post that over here. That means that M, we were left over here with the fact that we need some credits in order to balance this out. The credits are going to go to M's capital account. M has a credit balance. If we credit again, it's going to make it go up. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to put our cursor in I-33, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. We're going to credit the capital account balance for 27,825. So negative 27,825, enter. We're going to do the same thing for L. L is going to go up. We have a credit balance here. It's going to go up in the credit direction. We're going to copy that. Put our cursor in I-34, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. And the amount will be for the 46,375. So negative 46,375. Now before we post it, are we in balance? Well, if we highlight the credits, they add up to 124.2. That's equal to the debits. If we highlight the debits and the credits, they add up to 0 because the debits minus the credits add up to 0. All right, let's post this out and see if it does what we want it to do. What do we want it to do again? We want this account to go to that. We want this to go to 0, and we want this account to go to this, which will give us a total capital of 490. Okay, so we're going to post out the B capital. So here's B's capital. We're going to go to O34 to do so and select equals, point to the 124.2. That will bring this amount down to 0. Then we're going to go to the cash account. So here's cash, here's cash. We're going to put the entry here in O31 equals, point to the 50. That's going to bring cash down by 50 to 500,000. Then we're going to post the M capital. So here's M's capital. We are in O33. We're going to select equals, point to the 27,825. This is a credit. This is a credit. It's going to make the credit go up in the credit direction. We're going to do the same thing for L's capital. Here's L's capital. We're going to post it in O35 equals. We're going to point to the 46,375. Credit will go up in the credit direction because we're doing the same thing to it, putting us back in balance with the green zeros down here. And there we have the 179.25, 179.25, the 310.975, 310.975. If we add these two up, adds up to the 490, which is the 490.